So hi everybody, my name is Nadia, not of the Nadia and Steve channel. I'm actually a guest radio personality on Vibe 105 here in Toronto, and I'm actually a host guest today on Nadia and Steve's YouTube channel. Today I'm here with two very important people, Steve of course, who is part of this YouTube channel, and his father-in-law, Andy Ali Khan. Say hello.
Hello.
So today we're actually going to bring some awareness to kidney disease. A different type of kidney disease, and just you as listeners give you some advice and some guidance if you're going through the same thing. We're also going to talk about something called ABO, Incompatibility Kidney Transplant. And that's something that these guys went through, and it's something that's offered right here in Toronto, but a lot of people don't know about it. We're going to get into that and what that means for those who are trying to find a donor or a match for somebody that needs a kidney in their family. So again, here's Steve. And here's Mr. Khan, but I'm going to call him Dad because I know him affectionately as Dad. So I'm going to start asking the question first. So Dad, what age did you get diagnosed with your kidney disease? And how did that just start transpiring into your teenage years and then your adult years?
So I think around 15 years old when I was diagnosed, and how I was diagnosed was really by a fluke. I was in school swimming and just felt tired for no reason at all. I used to stay in shape and just felt tired, so I decided to go to the doctor. And when I did, he did some blood work on me, and next thing you know, he's sending me off to Branson Hospital, and I'm going like, what's going on? And he said, I just want to send you there to get some more tests and see what's going on, because he saw something in my creatinine. The levels were elevated, and for my age, that was abnormal. So I went to Branson Hospital, and after they ran the tests, they weren't sure, but they said it looks like I have kidney disease.
And where's that hospital? Is that here in Toronto or is that back home in Trinidad?
No, it's on Finch Avenue near Bathurst, Finch and Bathurst.
And it's just like a small hospital that sort of deals with some of this stuff?
Well, it was one of the older hospitals at the time, because we didn't have like the new hospitals like we have the Humber today.
Yeah.
So they were, it was a smaller hospital that was close to where I was living, and they weren't specializing in this at all. The hospital that was specializing in kidney disease at the time was Toronto Western,
right,
down at Dundas and Bathurst.
So when you got there and you did that testing and they said to you, they think it is what it is, what happened next?
Well, I was transferred down to Toronto Western Hospital, and they did a biopsy on me, a kidney biopsy. And what that entails is they put a needle in your back to get a piece of your kidney, so they can run some tests on it. And after running those tests, it was determined that I had a kidney disease called, and I could never pronounce the name, it's a long word, glomerulonephritis is what I had. And what that is it has to do with the filters that clean your blood. And these filters were getting clogged, and the blood wasn't being cleaned properly, and my creatinine levels were going up, which is an indication of kidney failure.
Oh wow, and this is when you were 15.
Yeah.
And then from then on, I mean, obviously you're going to doctors a lot. Did you start dialysis at that age, or is that something you still had to go through more tests before you started dialysis? Like how did you get from, having it at that age and then getting to a dialysis point?
I don't think dialysis was an option, or for me at the time anyway. I think it was too early in the stage, in the disease stage. So what I was told at the time when I saw my specialist was, given where I was, he said that maybe when I reach 19 to 20 years of age, I would probably be looking at a kidney transplant.
Oh, wow.
Now, in the meantime, what they did was they put me on a renal diet. And as you can imagine, that was a little bit devastating for me because it meant I couldn't eat a lot of the things that I liked.
Especially that you're a teenager, right? Like you're from 15 till about 19, 20. You know, you want to go out and eat stuff. You want to drink with your friends. You want to party, but you can't do any of that. Or you have to do it within a limit.
Exactly. So, in my own mind, I said to myself, you know what, I could fight this. So, instead of following the renal diet, which I don't advise anyone to do, right? I continue to live a normal life, but at the same time trying to follow the renal diet. So basically what I'm saying is I followed the renal diet to a certain point. Mm-hmm. And I tried to eat what I liked, but you know, in moderation, not in abundance.
What does that diet restrict you to?
It's a low protein diet, and you have to watch things that put strain on the kidney, like the things you drink.
Yeah.
Like things with color, like I couldn't drink Coke. I didn't like Coke, so I didn't mind that. But things like Coke and stuff like that, you know, it's harder on the kidneys to filter.
Oh wow, I can't imagine being a teenager and not being able to drink Coke. Not that, you know, it's Coke, but I get it. Okay, so let's fast forward now, because I guess a lot of that's going through, you know, your teenage years. You get into your 20s now. Were you looking at, okay, was the option now, okay, we have to get a kidney for you? Or did they delay that?
No, actually, and you know, this was very strange because I was actually able to live a normal life through the 20s, through the 30s, through the 40s. But I always went to see my specialist.
On a regular?
I think I started at 6-month intervals and then I went to 1 year.
Oh wow, so it's almost like the kidney said, hey, I'm good right now. Or I'm not going to bother you. Not to make light of it, but it's like, you know, here you are getting, you know, diagnosed with this rare kidney disease. They're telling you to follow this diet, and then all of a sudden it's like, you're Benjamin Button, it's reversing itself.
Exactly. Well, it wasn't reversing itself, but you know, I think the power of the mind is something that helped in all of this. I think if you keep a positive attitude and you don't let it bother you, I think that helps. And I think that's what I managed to do throughout my 20s, 30s, 40s, and until my late 50s. Because, you know, when I was growing up, I managed to stay in shape. I used to work out. I managed to keep a very physical job with the Toronto Star delivery department. I don't know if anybody remember. Mm-hmm. In those days, they had the blue trucks, and there's a guy in the back of the truck delivering papers, and that was me. And, you know, delivering papers to the subway stations when there was Garfield News back then. And that was a very strenuous job. And I managed to do that for 4 years in my teenage years. And for the most part, you know, I lived quite a normal life, and I figured, you know, with the tests that were coming back, my kidney had stabilized around the 250 level for creatinine. And it slowly went up over the years, but maybe 250, 260, but always around that level.
What's a normal level for those who don't know?
The normal level, I believe, is anywhere from 50 to 120.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's still pretty high. Like 250 is still
a little high, but not like dangerous
for the normal population.
Well, from what I understand, if you are 250, your kidney function is around 50%.
Oh, wow.
If not lower.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay,
so that's what I live with for the better part of my life.
And then you got into your 50s, and then all of a sudden things changed.
Yeah, and you know, I don't know what happened in the years in between. I drank a lot of water. I drank a lot of beer. I'm not telling people to drink beer, but apparently beer has a natural flushing for the kidneys, and maybe that helped. I don't know, but we had planned to go on a trip. I believe it was November 2017, Nadia?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
2017, and
yeah.
I wasn't feeling well, and I said, let me go and check before I go. And this was about a week before I went to the hospital. Well, I went to my family doctor. She did some blood work, and then she sent me to the emergency department of Toronto General. And I asked her what's going on. She said, well, I want you to go down there and get tested again, right?
Right.
And I went down, and I'm thinking to myself, I hope they don't keep me here. And the lab said, no, we think you'll be okay. Next thing you know, I'm admitted.
Oh, wow. And how long did you get admitted for? Like, because that was, now this started the journey of all the things you went through, and then we'll pull in Steve on that, but this started that journey for, okay, now your kidneys are bad.
So I got admitted, and they ran some more tests and basically told me that I'm not going anywhere. So we had to cancel our travel plans.
Right.
And I think I was in the hospital for about 3 days. They kept me to run all these tests on me. They were thinking about doing another biopsy, but they decided against it. They said, you had one done. We don't think anything has changed. We know what your disease is.
Right.
So they spared me the pain of going through that.
Right.
Yeah, and that was it. After that, I started going back to my specialist. Well, I shouldn't say going back. I was always going, but then I went to see her right away.
Yeah.
And she told me then that I may have to go on dialysis.
Wow.
If my creatinine keeps going up, I will have to go on dialysis because my body would get poisoned, and I need to get my blood cleaned.
And did you end up going on the dialysis? You did, right?
Yes, I did. I think when my level went up to about 600,
Wow.
that's when they decided that I need to do this. So they arranged an appointment for me at Toronto Western Hospital, where I had a catheter put in. And the catheter is just to facilitate the peritoneal dialysis that they wanted to put me on.
And how long, so, because I remember that time, like 2017, when that was all happening and transpiring, and I know you were adamantly against, you weren't open to getting a kidney yet. And I wanted to ask you why.
I was 59 years old when the way my doctor explained it to me was, I said, how come all of a sudden, I was asking her, how come all of a sudden, I was good and then
you're not good anymore. Yeah.
And what she said was, the disease that I have, it's like walking on a mountain and there's a cliff and you walk to the end and then you just fall off. And this is what happened to me. I was good and steady, and then all of a sudden, bam.
You weren't good anymore.
No, and the kidneys started to fail.
Right. So I'm going to pull in Steve now, because as a family now...
Oh, let me...
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
You asked, I didn't answer your question. You asked why I didn't consider getting a kidney at the time.
Yeah.
And the reason was, I thought I would try the dialysis and see how that went. How restricted that would be and what kind of lifestyle I would have doing this dialysis. Also, I was considering my age, and I didn't want to put anyone through giving me a kidney because, it is a bit of a painful operation for the donor. Yeah. As well as the recipient, but I was thinking I didn't want to be selfish to ask my kids or any family members to give me a kidney, and I said to myself, let me see what dialysis is all about.
And you know what? There's nothing strange about that because there are a lot of there's a lot of recipients like you that feel the same way. And I think the messaging is, hopefully not to think that way because you don't know who's out there. Maybe it's not from family, maybe it can be somebody else. And I remember us trying to, and your daughter Nat and everybody just trying to encourage you to be open-minded to it. I remember this. And it broke my heart when you weren't open to it because I was like, oh my God, we need to get in one, right? But, and I get it at first because I tried to put myself in your shoes to understand why you were feeling that way. And the factors like age and all those things come in and you're thinking, oh my God. And the word burden is what I hear a lot from other friends who have kidney disease. And they say that as a recipient. They're like, I don't want to put that burden on my family, but sometimes you just never know. And so I think I want to pull in Steve now with that because as family now, you and Nad, your wife, you hear...
Yeah, let me just say something before you go to Steve.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what changed my mind was there is an option that, you go on a waiting list.
Right.
And when I met with my doctor again in the transplant, not the transplant, but the peritoneal the dialysis clinic, which is at the same hospital, except a different department. My doctor just happens to head that clinic. So I saw her there. And, we discussed it. And she said, you could be waiting anywhere from 5 to 7 years because of your blood type. My blood type is O positive. And what that means is I'm a universal giver, but I can only accept a kidney from an O blood type.
Oh, wow.
So I'm restricted in that sense. So, I could have been waiting 7 years for a kidney. And then I started thinking, maybe I should start, considering the other option of getting a live donor.
Right. And then then starts the journey of trying to find somebody that's compatible with your blood, but not knowing there's other options out there too, which is what we'll get to in a little bit, talking about the ABO, incompatibility, kidney transplant. But that's really good to know because I'm sure there's a lot of people I didn't even know, even my own father's positive blood type. So it's really good to let people know that. So we talk about your unique blood type being O. Take us on the journey of how you started to, you're processing that, okay, now I'm going to get a kidney. I need a donor. How do you start that journey to find a match?
Well, the most obvious choices, if you have kids, which I do, I have a son and a daughter, would be them. But you have to also consider, their family lifestyle.
Of course.
If they have kids, their jobs, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Because once you do this, if you do donate a kidney, I think you'd be up for anywhere from 3 to 6 months before you can go back to work.
Oh, wow. Yeah, long recovery. It makes sense.
Yeah, but you have to take all that into consideration. So those would be the obvious donors. But when we started looking for donors, a lot of family members, I shouldn't say a few family members came forward, friends, my wife even.
Yeah.
The problem is the hospitals will only do one test at a time. And I think that test, Steve, how long did that test take you?
I would say from beginning to end, about 3 months.
Wow, 3 months
yeah,
per
that
test.
sounds about right. I was going to say 3 months. I just wanted to confirm it.
About 3 months.
Basically, what you do is you have a list of donors, and then they fill out the application. You take it to the transplant clinic on the donor side, and they will screen it, and then they will bring you in, run some tests on you, have some interviews, and adding all that together, it will take about 3 months. What I will say is the interview is very intensive. What they're trying to make sure of is that you do, in fact, want to donate a kidney, because there have been quite a few people that take it to the 90th percentile and then they back out for whatever reason.
Right. Understandably, we get that. And those
Yeah.
questions that they ask too, not only I guess it's about mental state, but it's also about lifestyle state as well, right? Like how have you been
Yeah.
treating your body overall that would make your kidney a viable option?
Exactly. You have to be in good health. I mean, that's a given, right?
Right.
You have to have good kidney function, etc., etc. They take into account the work that you do.
Right.
Obviously, if you have a desk job, that's better than if you have a physical job.
Like around chemicals or construction or something like
Well,
that.
construction,
Yeah.
it's just the toll that it's going to take on your body.
Right.
There goes the phone. So, the process. We submitted applications for both my children,
Right.
and I think they were denied. And why they were denied was the disease that I have. No one could give an answer as to why I got it. No one knows. Up until now, they don't know.
So we don't know if it was genetic,
Exactly.
and
So-
there's no guarantee that if it's not genetic, that it wouldn't pass on to your kids.
Right.
Wow.
So they disqualified the kids for that reason, but then they decided to do a genetic test on me, which in itself took 3 months to get back the results. Now, when the results came back, the results showed negative. But the transplant clinic that did the tests, they weren't satisfied with that. The reasoning behind that was, they said we don't have the technology to go deeper, so we don't know if it is in fact genetic, even though the test came back negative.
It's not conclusive. I guess they
It's
just
not
don't.
conclusive. So
Right.
for that reason, they said no, we can't consider your children.
So what did you do next? Because that must have been heartbreaking. Like knowing that you want to ask your kids, you're thinking, yay, they might be a viable option, but they're not. So how did that make you feel?
Well, I was kind of devastated because even my brother went forward, and at the last minute, he was disqualified for reasons that I wouldn't mention.
Okay.
But anyhow, we were actually looking forward and thinking that was the solution. My brother, my youngest brother.
Right.
So when that happened, now, in the meantime, I was doing dialysis. So the dialysis process had started already. So when the test came back, now my doctor, she asked me, she said, we should get a second opinion on this. Do you want to get a second opinion? And I said, sure.
Always get a second opinion.
Yeah. So she actually referred me to St. Michael's Hospital.
Right. Okay.